Welcome to Retire Colorado. From tax efficiency to income planning, healthcare, and investments, Alicia and Josh Lewis and the team at Lehman Lewis Financial Group know what it takes to help you plan for a modern retirement. They listen to your dreams and goals to help you achieve retirement success. This is Retire Colorado.
Welcome to Retire Colorado. I'm Bruce Steinbrock, and welcome Alicia and Josh Lewis from the Lehman Lewis Financial Group. Guys, great to be with you.
Well, it's great to be seen.
Yes, glad to be here with you.
No question. Well, let's dive right in. Alicia and Josh in the Lehman Lewis Financial family, they help plan retirements for folks right here in Colorado and get you into and through retirement successfully. Now, when it comes to building a retirement, it takes a foundation. And I know, Josh, recently you've been working with several people to build the boys, your two sons, a treehouse. Now, this isn't just any treehouse. It comes with a steel I-beam foundation, and having a solid foundation for the two of you, in retirement, that's very key.
You're absolutely right. And honestly, anytime you build anything, that's exactly where you got to start it. It's all bottom up from there. So you don't have a good foundation, that's where you're going to run into some major issues.
And Alicia, you've seen Josh do this. He's a handy guy around the house, but building this, he's taken this very seriously because the boys eventually, they want to live in this little structure that you're building, and it's not really little.
That's what they said. They said, I think we're going to move out here in the summer. And Josh told them, well, if you don't, then I think I will. But yes, absolutely. Foundation is the safety piece when not only building a home or a tree house, but also when building that retirement plan. And the one thing that we really focus on too, when building that safety foundation piece, is honing in on the income piece of retirement, because that's one of the biggest questions. Where's my income going to come from? And how can I make sure that I'm not going to outlive my income? And that's really the financial foundation, if you will, of retirement planning.
And one of the most foundational pieces for a retirement plan is Social Security. And there are so many ways that you can turn it on. A husband and a wife can turn it on at different times, but you need to know what you're doing when it comes to Social Security, correct?
Absolutely.
Absolutely right. And there's so many different laws, there's so many different rules, but as married couples, it's really looking at identifying kind of who has the strongest benefit, where the spouse might fit in with that, but then also understanding metrics like longevity within a family too, of knowing that, hey, if we take it at this point, we could get a bigger benefit if we waited, but what does that look like 10, 15, 20 years down the road? So really kind of sitting down and being very devoted to looking at different strategies and how that works in conjunction with all your assets is really a pretty important part of retirement planning.
Well, you don't want to just start taking Social Security because you can. You want to make sure that you're intentional and you have that purpose driven retirement so that okay, this is why I'm taking it. This is when I'm taking it, because there's a lot more than that goes into that planning piece than just, hey, I'm going to start taking Social Security.
Well, and let's also face it too, you also have to plan in retirement, and we talk about it on the radio show all the time about planning, but you have to plan when one spouse passes and you only have one of those Social Securities. So it's not just about, getting in and, having a great time with Social Security, but you have to plan for what happens 10, 15, 20 years down the road.
And kind of that contingency planning, right, is extremely important because someone passes away, obviously it's a tragic instance. However, there's sort of longer term ramifications with that, like a Social Security benefit going away. So understanding that, hey, one of these benefits we want to be stronger or a larger benefit because that's what's going to be left over to that surviving spouse. So that's sort of a key metric in planning for that as well. Not to mention the fact that the surviving spouse is going to enter into a more unfavorable tax bracket because a single filer isn't quite as good as a married filing jointly. So a lot of kind of considerations that go hand in hand with just Social Security planning.
And Alicia, that fact gets lost on some people. They think, well, I paid into Social Security. over my lifetime. So is my spouse. We're going to get those until we both pass. But one of those benefits, you only get the higher of the two. And so that causes tax ramifications as well.
Absolutely. And that's where what we look at when we're doing retirement planning and when we're building people their retirement roadmap, what we're looking at is, yes, today, planning for today and in the future for a great lifestyle together, as a married couple or if you're single, but we're also looking at far in the future of what happens if and when this one of the spouses passes away. What happens? What happens to your income? What happens to taxes? All of that. And so we're looking at that big picture, not just this little right here, right now. And that is the key to making sure that you have a successful retirement plan, is not just planning for today, but planning for now all the way until hopefully 100 years old.
Yeah. Although putting that retirement roadmap together, you bring my wife in, she's like, oh, let's go ahead and knock him off right now and see what happens.
Oh,
But that's part of the planning as a couple. You want to find out what could happen if something happens to one or both of you during retirement, and how you're going to benefit that money moving forward.
Right, because and it's not just Social Security, and not just taxes as well. It's also, when you're looking at the big spectrum of your retirement plan of what happens for the income replacement, how are we going to create that income gap, as well as, because you're going to be paying more in taxes. And so really just that whole planning process, that's going to be really the breaking point of a true successful plan.
And working with couples is something that you guys do every day, and it is really finding out what's the expectation of both of you. And Josh, you've clearly seen it where the male walks in with one expectation, the wife certainly another.
You're absolutely right. Sometimes I joke that I sort of moonlight as a marriage counselor simply because, a lot of times we all sort of live in our own minds to a certain extent. And I think we have goals, we have accomplishments, but if you're not spending some time chatting about that with your spouse, they might not be on the same page. So I think, almost more often than not, when we're sitting down, we're talking about goals with these folks. Yeah. And you'll see these kind of exchanges between spouses going, oh, really? And it's that idea of it was never communicated. So I think that's kind of a good opportunity to get everybody on the same page and say, all right, you each have these individual things you want to do, but what do you guys want to do together? And then how do we kind of facilitate both of those things to happen so you get the best of both worlds?
We were sitting with some clients at one point. They're clients now, but at the time they weren't clients. And we started asking them, what do you want to do in retirement? And before I could even finish asking the question, he was like, oh, as soon as we retire, we have this land up in Minnesota. It's on a lake, and we are going to sell everything and go live in a cabin up on this land, and we're just going to fish all the time. And the wife was like, you and who? And we were like, oh my goodness. And he said, well, that's why we have the land. She said, yeah, we bought that land 35 years ago, but now things have changed, and I don't want to move away from the grandkids. And so again, it's kind of resetting and getting back onto the same page, making sure that the lifestyle is what you're trying to accomplish in retirement. Because yes, retirement has a lot to do with building a portfolio and building your retirement plan, but you're building that plan so that you can have enjoy retirement, and also enjoy it with the person that you're retiring with. So making sure that you're on the same page is key.
No doubt. You can reach out to Alicia, Josh, and the Lehman Lewis Financial family at the number listed on your screen. We'll continue with Retire Colorado after this. Social Security. You've been paying into the system your whole career. Now it's time to get the most out of it. But with so many choices, what's the best strategy for you? And how can you maximize your benefits? Find out in this no-obligation Social Security report. Learn how your Social Security benefits can play a role in your overall retirement income plan. A lot of factors go into optimizing your benefits, and if you make an informed decision, you could end up with tens of thousands of extra dollars in retirement. You only get one chance to make the best decision for you. Take the first step and download the Social Security report today.
You are one of a kind. So what will your retirement look like? Will you retire here or here? Maybe you'll spend time here or here or even over here. Your future is our mission, so you can make more memories here or here. Wherever you're coming from, we're here for wherever you want to go.
It's Retire Colorado with Alicia and Josh Lewis. I'm Bruce Steinbrock, and we're helping you get into and through retirement. In our last segment, we talked about the foundation and how Social Security plays such a key part in that. But now we want to build this structure. And Josh, when you're building the massive treehouse out in the backyard, you got to put up some good walls. And what do we use for walls in our retirement plan?
Yeah, you're absolutely right. So the walls typically are going to be based upon your investment plan. So when we talk about walls, we want something that's going to be withstanding, right? We want something that's going to stand the test of time. So we look at a lot of different kind of sources of how do we build out a well-diversified wall. So we want exposure to a lot of different asset classes, but this is where we want to also sort of mitigate volatility, right? Where we don't want a lot of, sort of unknown subjected to that structure that's built upon our foundation. So there's a lot of things that go with that.
And Alicia, you read the boys, Goldilocks and the Three Bears. We know that we certainly don't want it made out of straw, anything like that. So we don't want the big bad wolf coming by and huffing and puffing our retirement plan out the door.
That's right. We want to make sure that you have walls that are sturdy, that can withhold a storm, and make sure that your retirement is not affected in a dramatic way if, or should I say when, there is hiccups in the market, because that happens, right? And so making sure, like what Josh said, that you do have a retirement plan in place. We say this all the time. It's not just about the investments that you have. It's about making sure that you have a very intentional plan and that really accounts for everything. So of course, we're always going to hope for the best, but we need to make sure that we're planning for the worst so that our walls aren't caving in if there's just a little windstorm, right?
No doubt. And let's talk about how we help our clients here at Lehman Lewis. And by the way, if you want to reach us, you can see that number right there at the bottom of your screen, and the website as well. We always love to see people reach out and connect with us online. But so many clients come in with how much income do I need? So how do you help them with that income plan in building these walls of their retirement?
So this is a question, when I've had a lot of people come in and they'll say, how much do I need in order to retire? And I can't help but to giggle a little bit, because when we're creating retirement roadmaps for people, we're not, it's not just this set it and forget it. It's not just this, plan for everybody. It is truly, truly customized. And so what we look at and what we ask right back is, well, what kind of income do you want, and what kind of income do you need in retirement? Because that's going to be the income that we plan around, and that'll also be the determining thing of how much money that you need to retire. So you think about, if somebody needed $2,000 a month in retirement, and maybe somebody else needed $20,000 a month in retirement, they are going to need completely different portfolio amounts in order to retire successfully. So there's no cookie cutter answer there. It really comes down to making sure that you have that customized plan.
Yeah, this isn't like going to the local fast food restaurant and the number one here is the same as it is in, another state. I've got my plan is my plan. And so many times I think that's what you've got to establish with couples when they come in, is that you're building their plan. They have to provide you information, and then you work with them and that information to build this long-term plan.
Yeah, it's, and since we're talking about houses, you think about if you were to go into a neighborhood and you're buying from somebody who's built out a neighborhood, and what do? They say, do you want this plan, this house plan, or this house plan, right? That is not what we do for retirement planning. So what we're doing is we are custom building. And so that's why we sit down and we say, okay, what is it that you want? What really, just drives you? Where's your heart at? And that's why getting to know the people that we work with is so crucial for us and crucial for our clients, because the better we know people, the better we can advise people.
And that's got to be so satisfying for that couple when you help them get to feel like they have this plan that now they're not setting it, forgetting it by any stretch of the imagination, but they now have this roadmap that they know where they're going.
Right. And not only that, but when things change in life, because, life changes, and it changes a lot in retirement. You've got that team of advisors here at Lehman Lewis that is walking through that whole, changes in life. When you're walking through, whether it's maybe a job loss, or maybe it's a retirement, a purposeful job loss, maybe it's the loss of a spouse, maybe it's a health diagnosis, but things happen in life. And that's why having a team of advisors is really, really crucial, but also having a plan that is able to be flexible and changing, because a retirement plan that is a set it and forget it, that's not a retirement plan. That's just investments.
And Josh, in retirement, during our working career, our 401k, we're putting money in. We really aren't worrying about volatility. The ups and downs, we take advantage of those. But when it comes to your retirement plan, a dip could really cost you.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. I mean, when you start looking at the dynamic of investing, when you're saving, accumulating assets and you're 20, 30, 40 years old, market volatility can actually be advantageous of, being able to buy stocks at a lesser price. But I think ultimately, once you get into that retirement phase and you're distributing income off your portfolio and you see those dips, you might be selling assets at depressed prices, which doesn't put anybody in a better situation. And if you look at sometimes those prolonged downturns, then you might be put in a position where you're doing that over a prolonged period. And that can be extremely detrimental to somebody's portfolio over the long term, especially considering when those downturns might happen.
You can reach out to Josh, Alyssa, and our entire Lehman Lewis financial family at the number on your screen. We'll continue building your retirement house when we continue on Retire Colorado.
Congratulations, you did it! You worked hard and saved for retirement, but now you have questions. Could my taxes increase? How will I cover my expenses? Will my income last? You need a strategy to help make sure your hard-earned money goes the distance in retirement. That's why we're offering this free guide designed to help you determine if your nest egg can withstand the challenges of a 21st century retirement. Longer lives, increasing healthcare costs, and taxes are just a few of the possible risks to your income. Get the guide today and take the first step to help your money last in retirement.
You have a club for every scenario. A driver for the long holes. Wedges to get you over the hazards. And a putter for when you need a touch of finesse. What about your retirement? Will you have enough to play the back nine? Call to set your 15-minute phone visit today and let's find out. Get a second set of eyes on your retirement plan.
You know you want to retire. You might even know when you want to retire. What you don't know is what the world will look like. A short market drop, a crash, a recession. What if I told you these words don't have to change your retirement dreams? World events can impact your retirement, but thankfully, they don't have to. Can your retirement survive the unexpected? Visit the link to find your risk score to help you prepare for retirement when you're ready. It's time for you, not outside forces, to be in control of your retirement. Find your risk score so you can be ready no matter what comes next.
This is Retire Colorado with Alicia and Josh Lewis of the Lehman Lewis Financial Group. And you can reach the team. Right there on your screen is the phone number, the website, and we would love to have you reach out and talk with Alicia and Josh about your retirement plan. Now, we're building our retirement house today. We've talked about a foundation. We've talked about the walls, but now let's talk about that riskiest part of your home, the roof. It is susceptible to the wind. You have shingles and all kinds of things that can fly off of a regular roof. Well, what can fly out of your retirement plan, Alicia, when it comes to building this, financial house, and what can be the risk to your financial plan if a big wind comes blowing in?
Yeah, so when we talk about the roof of your financial house, that is the riskiest, which is stocks. And so when we're investing, when we're making sure that you have a full-blown customized plan for retirement, we really focus in on how are you diversified, and not just diversified amongst risk, but truly diversified, also looking at the why with the what. Why are you invested in this? What is it going to be used for? As well as when is it going to be used? So there's a lot that goes into it. But when we're looking at the roof of your financial home, that is the riskiest.
That's right. So when you think of that sort of dynamic, that's really the first part to go. Mm-hmm. So when you look at speculation, when things get a little hairy, obviously that's going to be the roof, and you're going to see that, kind of go with whatever the weather does. So important to keep in mind.
By the way, we've been talking about Josh building this Taj Mahal treehouse out in the backyard for the boys. What are you building the roof out of there?
Well, it's going to be actually corrugated steel. So no shingles, but, more of an aesthetics thing, really.
Oh.
It's not going anywhere. I can't wait to see the finished product.
You and me both.
And me too, and the boys.
Yeah, they're going to sleep in it that very night, I guarantee it.
Absolutely.
All right. So in that roof, because you need to have some at risk in retirement, but you don't need to have a lot at risk. So how do you advise your clients on the risk and their money in their retirement income plan?
Yeah, so there's kind of a lot of ways we sort of address risk in a portfolio, because when you kind of think about this whole dynamic, right, where people have this financial capacity for risk, where we could look at your retirement plan and we could say, hey, you don't need to take a lot of risk to get to where you need to go. So what do you want that to look like? And then there's some people who we say, you need to have more growth. You need to take on a little bit more risk if you want to make this work out. But ultimately, that's kind of the math side, right? Where that's not to sound flippant, but that's a little bit easier to figure out. What's a little bit of a deeper dive is talking to people about sort of that emotional connection to their money, because a lot of times you sit down with families and they could lose 20-30% of their assets and be okay financially. The difference is it would hurt them deeply. There's that emotional connection. And so we want to kind of walk that fine line between both of those and recognize, hey, how much volatility, how much risk are you willing to take? But also understanding how much risk you need to take, because again, risk isn't one of those one and done conversations. It's sort of this revolving door. And as things happen in your life, as things go on in economic and market cycles, people's risk changes. And I think your portfolio needs to be flexible and adaptable to really accommodate all of those changes as they come along.
And it's interesting too, when we ask people, how much do you feel like you could afford to lose? And we already know the answer to that, because at that point, we've usually done a portfolio analysis. And a lot of times they'll say, 10%. And they'll usually throw out a percent, 10 or 20%.
Almost always.
Almost always. And then, we always say, oh, so that means you're okay if you lost X amount of dollars. And almost always their reaction is, no, I don't want to lose. No, I'm not okay. Well, that just so happens to be 10%. And so reevaluating, where is your comfort level, and Not only that, but looking at the numbers of if you did lose that, what would that look like for your plan? And so should you be taking that risk? And if not, how are we readjusting your volatility?
You can reach Josh and Alyssa. The number is listed right there at the bottom of your screen. This is Retire Colorado with Alicia and Josh. I'm Bruce Steinbrock. Now, Alicia, I've got to believe, and Josh, I'll let you weigh in as well, but being a husband and wife, when they sit down, risk tolerance is different for the couple. So how many times have you brought the couple in and asked the wife what her risk tolerance is, and then the husband what his risk tolerance is, and they are diametrically opposed?
Every single time. So every time we have somebody come into the office and we're getting to know them, or maybe we're doing a Zoom call getting to know them, we are always asking independently, what is your, what do you feel? What are your feelings on the market? For both husband and wife, because it's usually never the same. And I have to say, normally women are a little bit more conservative, or a lot more conservative, where men are just naturally risk takers. And while that's okay, it really comes down to how can we make sure that we're getting the couple on the same page, and so that it works for not only them personally, but also for their retirement plan. That's the key. It's got to work with their plan and also work for them as a couple.
All right, Josh, I want you to weigh in. How does that conversation go? Because you're the male side of this. Are men generally stronger risk takers when you talk to your clients?
I think if you look at longevity metrics, I would say absolutely yes. Men are the bigger risk takers.
Even though we're going to statistically die first.
That's right, because our decision-making process is based upon risk, right? So I think ultimately, it's kind of that ebb and flow, right? Where a lot of it ends up being compromised, but typically men, they like to go for the gusto, and ladies like a little bit more of that security and kind of consistency. So a lot of times it's sort of those candid conversations of getting everybody on the same page to look at, hey, what do we need to do to make a successful plan? And how do we kind of marry both of those philosophies together?
You can put together your financial blueprint, roadmap, if you will, as you build your financial house. Just reach out to Alicia or Josh or anyone on our Lehman Lewis financial team, and you can get that phone number right there at the bottom of your screen, also the website, and we would love to hear from you. That will wrap up Retire Colorado for this week. Alicia and Josh, great to be with you.
Thanks. Good to be here.
Thank you so much.
We'll see you next time right here on Retire Colorado.